Over the years, as somebody that's been really involved in the horror community, especially with hot takes, I've talked a lot about remakes. Today, I want to give you guys what I think is one of the most underrated horror remakes ever made. What is it? Hey, what's up everybody? Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about what I find to be one of the most underrated horror remakes of all time. This movie was essential to my childhood. It absolutely crept into my bones and creeped me out, and now as an adult, I have so much fun watching that movie. And what is the movie I'm talking about today? What's one of the most underrated horror remakes, I think, ever? House on Haunted Hill. Yes, House on Haunted Hill. Now, it's really made me happy to see people come around to this movie in recent years because I do remember a period there where people kind of shat on this movie. They didn't really think it was all that good. They complained about the effects, and they felt it was very much a product of its time. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe nostalgia's blinding me here, but I don't think the movie is at all. Look, House on Haunted Hill was a movie that I saw on TV when I was a kid. I believe it was on HBO one night. We did not watch it as a family. I watched it by myself for the first time. It scared the crap out of me. The scene that I remember that just stuck in my craw and terrified me was the whole climax of the movie when you had the black mass of all the spirits coming after them as they're trying to escape. And now I watch that and I'm like, oh, those effects are really shoddy. But it doesn't matter, because my memory of that was just pure fear. I thought it was terrifying. And I still think it's effective just as the premise of it. The idea of it, I think, is really creepy. But when you start talking about why this is one of the most underrated horror remakes ever made, you have to start first and foremost with the cast. Look, you've got Jeffrey Rush in this movie, who is incredible. And it was not long after this that he started to play Captain Barbossa in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and I really became a huge fan of Jeffrey Rush. So I have a lot of attachment to him. Ali Larter in this movie. Again, somebody that I had an attachment to as a younger kid because of the Final Destination movies. So I love seeing her in this movie. Chris Kattan? Who doesn't know Chris Kattan? I mean, go down the list. There is a solid cast up and down in this movie, and they all do really, really well in their roles. Next is the setting. Look, this house is gorgeous. It's dripping in atmosphere. This thing is incredible. It's looks like the best place to have a Halloween party, and also the worst place ever to be because you're terrified at any turn you die. And if you can do that, if you can play with both ideas and make the audience feel both things while watching the movie, you have done your job. Look, I love the set pieces in this movie. I absolutely love them. Yeah, sure, we're going to talk about the CGI, from the outside sometimes. I'm not going to. I don't care. I love the movie. It's undeniable that they do the interiors up so well. Okay, look, the soundtrack is killer. The soundtrack is very late 90s, early 2000s. We know it, you know it, I know it. Let's just call it what it is. Growing up in that time, I'm definitely partial to a lot of this music. Again, everybody's favorite standout from this movie is Sweet Dreams by Marilyn Manson. Look, it's a killer soundtrack. It's incredible. It transports me back to my childhood. So again, that also plays a little bit of a role as to why I love this movie so much. But the thing about House on Haunted Hill, the thing about it that I feel like makes it stand the test of time for me is the genuinely unsettling shit that is throughout this movie. And even now, as an almost 30-year-old man, I can watch this movie and go, yeah, that stuff is still effective. There are so many scenes in this movie, whether you're seeing these crazy doctors through the video camera that aren't actually there in person and the nasty shit they're doing, whether it's the flashbacks or anything to do with the basement of this house. Look, it is a maze. I remember watching this movie and I was just genuinely freaked out the entire time they're down there because I'm thinking to myself, just like for self-preservation purposes, I wouldn't go down there. There's no way I'd find myself going down there. It is a maze. It is a labyrinth. You're going to get lost. And if you don't get lost, you're going to get killed. Why? Why ever go down there? There's no reason to go down there. Absolutely terrifying. And the imagery throughout. I mean, you've got these glass cases of weird shit. I mean, no. Giant vat of blood. No. No. Everything about the idea of this movie being locked in this house, being unable to escape, helplessness that is associated with all of that. It truly creeps into your skin. It gets in your bones. But the execution of it, the imagery, the stuff that happens in this movie, it's just killer. Look, this is one of those late 90s, early 2000s movies that I feel like will always stand the test of time because the stuff about it that is effective will always be effective. Claustrophobia is always going to freak people out. Ghosts, always going to mess with us, okay? The looming threat around any corner, the fear of getting lost in an unfamiliar place, all of that works. All of those are primal fears that we as humans feel at multiple points throughout our lives. And even if we don't, we think about those things and we think, yeah, hell no, I never want to experience that. Those are some of the things that makes House on Haunted Hill such a great movie. Look, I hope this movie never gets remade, at least this version of the movie. This is already a loose remake as it is of the original film, so if one day they want to do that, whatever, I guess. I wouldn't be really that excited, because this is one of those movies that I don't really feel like needs to be improved upon. Aside from nitpicking and saying, oh, it could use some better effects, well, you're preaching to the choir here, okay? You're just screaming into the void at this point. Aside from that, I feel like everything about this movie just stands the test of time, and I think it is one of the most quintessential Halloween watches. Like, I only watch this movie in October now because it gives me all the vibes, all the feels that I need for that time of year. I can't go wrong with this movie, and I would tell anyone, no one can go wrong with this movie. I genuinely don't see how someone could say, yeah, that movie's terrible. And if you can, well, then you need your head checked. Now, oftentimes we find ourselves revisiting movies from our childhood or just earlier years in our lives that we really had a fondness for, and we go back and we go, yeah, that wasn't as good as I thought. This is not one of those movies. If you haven't seen this movie, I implore you to do so. If you haven't seen this movie in a really long time because you're worried it's not going to hold up and match the feelings you had when you were younger and you loved it, I implore you to go back and watch it because I promise you, it's that good. Now, I will say the sequel, Return to House on Haunted Hill, no, thank you. Not good. Watched it for the first time 2 years ago in October. Did not care for it at all. You do not need to see it. Don't do it to yourselves. But yeah, I feel like House on Haunted Hill is one of the most underrated horror remakes out there. And if I had a top 10 list, it's definitely on it. It might even be top 5. But I want to hear from you guys in the comment section what you think about House on Haunted Hill. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Has it been a really long time since you saw it and you need to revisit it? Discuss all of that with me in the comment section. I'm going to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.